Next, I'm going to focus on the book outline. So the first thing about the book outline is that it's part 3, so it comes immediately after your reading for literary structure and after your literary classification. So the first thing you're going to do is review the marks you've made in your printout. So you can see here for Jonah, this is chapter 1. I noticed a break between chapters 1 and 2, so I made this little mark in my text. This just helps me see, and honestly, I'm making these starting on my first read through. I'm just seeing, hey, where is there a break in the author's thought? So you can see these 2 marks right here. So when I come to my book outline, I'm going to review those marks, and then I'm going to outline on my paper. So this is something that you could do simultaneously while you're doing your paragraph titles, especially for bigger books. But for Jonah, since it's a small book, I'm going to start off essentially for my outline just writing the paragraphs, because Jonah is just paragraphs, and then we're dividing those up into 4 different sections. So I already had a pretty good idea that there's 4 sections from my reading for paragraph titles. So essentially I'm going to write 1 verses 1, so that's the first paragraph, and then I'm going to write my paragraph title. So I titled that Go Nineveh, and then Jonah Flees. Then the next paragraph is 1 starting in verse 4, and my title is Lord, Tempest, and then Jonah, Sleep. So you can see here, I would go through the whole book of Jonah and write every single paragraph and title. Now, for bigger books, like a book like Genesis, you're not going to write the paragraph titles. That would take you ages. So what you're looking for there is larger chunks of material. So for instance, in Genesis, you would be looking and you would say, okay, I think Genesis 1 through 2, those are similar. Those are both 2 creation narratives. So you would essentially write, on your book outline, it would be more, okay, Genesis 1:1 through 2:3, and then I would give it a title. So it's not your paragraph title. You would actually title that segment, and you would say, oh, creation narrative number 1, and then it breaks into another creation narrative. Anyways, so bigger books will have about, on this level, these would be your segments, and you should have about, books range from about 10 to 35. Jonah is unique in that it's a small book, so we're just doing paragraph titles and then the 4 sections. So let me show you what that looks like complete. You can see here, I have all of my paragraph titles written. Once I wrote those all out, I kind of looked and then I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This line goes here. This is all chapter 1. I see all these things are related to being in the boat. So this was my outline. I drew a line out here, and then I did segments looking for 4, and we'll give you how many you're looking for each week. So it says Jonah, and then I titled it, right? So I said, okay, what's going on in chapter 1 is Jonah flees from his call, and then I added location. So I did location in the boat. Chapter 2 is all these paragraphs I saw were related, and I titled this one A Severe Mercy. Because the location is in the fish. So we see that Jonah is basically supposed to be dead, but it actually is this act of mercy. Then we have the third part, which is all of chapter 3, but arguably the first part of chapter 4. So I actually drew my line between 4:4 and 4:5. I think it's perfectly acceptable to also draw your line here. So to make it evenly, your 4 parts being the 4 chapters. But you can see there's not one right answer. I mean, it makes sense to me because I'm organizing it by location, that it very specifically says in this chapter outside the city. So this is inside the boat, this is inside the fish, this is inside Nineveh, and then this last little paragraph is outside the city. So this is my rough outline. And like I said, for a bigger book, this is going to look a little bit different. You'll have a lot more on your paper. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really, you're going to have both of these things. You should be in your text. You should be doing this. You can do it simultaneously as you're doing your paragraph titles and just kind of seeing bigger breaks of material. But typically from week to week, it's going to look a little bit different than this. You're going to have your segments. You're going to have your sections, and then you're going to have divisions. So typically books are divided in like 3 parts, 2 to 3 parts, and then your sections, typically books have about 4 to 8, and then your segments, typically books have about 10 to 35, but we'll walk you through all of that.